We're African Trade Network, where we work to foster collaboration and trade globally. And good morning, Elizabeth
Good
and
morning. How are you?
Rodney. Good. How are you guys?
Good morning. Good morning. Doing well.
Uh, why
Excellent.
don't we give a shout out where your company is from and what you're doing?
We are Hitkalut Consultants Limited. Head office is in Lusaka, Zambia. We have consultants across the African continent and outside the African continent. We have Rodney, who's based in the US, to assist us with anybody in the US looking to invest on the continent of Africa. And then we've also got another partner in Southeast Asia in the Philippines, who also assists us with that particular area. Yeah, so our other consultants, they're
Yes.
across the continent. Go ahead, Rodney.
Yes. I'm just going to piggyback what Elizabeth said. I work with her, Hikalu. I'm a consultant here in the U.S. and I look for investors and people who want to invest in the African market. People want to bring their products. I'm working with several companies here in the United States. One is called Airbox. They have one of the best air purification systems in the world. Another company I'm working with is called Eco Lighting. Um, they do a lot of commercial green lighting, solar, and LED lighting as well. So those are two companies I'm working with, and I just got a plethora of a big network that we're working with as well.
Excellent.
Pretty much.
Well, I know that you guys are going to talk about some trade and deals that you are working on, but I wanted to throw out the topic that we kind of went over last week about Sahel and the deal that they have with their car. I thought that would be a general discussion that we could talk about the Sahel electric car and the influence that this may have on the continent of Africa in terms of trade and a tech boom. And you guys can chime in and just kind of give your foresight and ideas and vision on where you think this is going to go.
You want to speak on that, Elizabeth? You're on the ground in Africa.
Okay. Wow. Electric vehicles in general, or just specifically on that one?
Well, what's happening in the Sahel, that's revolutionary. They've come up with a car, electric car. They're producing it themselves. And
Yes.
where is that going to take them, and where is that going to position the West African community? How is it going to influence the continent of Africa? What uh, kind of tech boom is possible around that? And just, if you have any foresight, ideas where you think it might go.
Great potential on the continent. It's an alternative, actually. It's a huge alternative. There is great potential for it. And if you look at the current status quo of the country it's coming from, it's very militant, very focused on meeting its targets and goals systematically in a militant manner. So I personally foresee it getting to a completely different level where they will even look at partnering up with countries that actually can supply them with the mineral that they do need for the battery operation of the vehicle. And not only that, we're looking at import exporting materials across the African continent and being very, very active in the trade facilities across the African continent because they are looking at branding the product as an African brand. And they want to prove a point saying that they can actually produce something locally as an African brand. So what it will do is that it will revolutionize the manufacturing industry on the African continent, not only in electronics, but also in value addition of agricultural products, value addition in the mining sector, value addition in any other sector that you might want to think of. So And it's going to take trade to a whole different level, completely different level. And I think it's going to be more in-house than anything else. There is an electric company that already produces household appliances in West Africa. In fact, several household appliances in West Africa. Now you have to remember that West Africa, they received their independence much, much earlier than the Southern African countries. So they're a bit ahead of us when it comes to becoming more confident in themselves and not relying on external support. So you will start seeing that the growth of development in the Western region will start trickling down to the Southern region in the same way that we had the migration of the Bantu people way back in the 1500s. And there's a particular relationship with the West Africans and the Southern Africans. We're pretty much the same people. So when you're dealing with the same people, we understand each other's mindset. When you understand each other's mindset, you know what your brother or sister is thinking. There's no need for any verbal communication. You just look at each other and you understand. It's kind of like you're in a room of a group of people who are not of the same race as you are, and then you spot one person who is of your race. You look at them and you smile, and that smile is a sense of recognition. Yeah. In the same way, when it comes to African development, we don't need to say anything to each other to understand that we need to do this and it's an African product. We all take ownership of it. I'll give you another example. In the sports industry, we always fight over internationally recognized African athletes. There was one football player who made it to the European Football League in the UK, and he happened to be Zambian. The South Africans claimed him because apparently he's got an in-law who's South African. The Zimbabweans claimed him because they believed that his mother was Zimbabwean. The Malawians claimed him because they believed he was partly Chewa. So it became a collective thing, and then some of them, I think East Africa, they decided that he was actually from East Africa because his Bantu name, sounded East African. So there's a sense of ownership and of family across the African continent. We want to take ownership of it collectively. Whoever wins on the African continent, we all celebrate with them. Right now, as we speak, there is a lot of lithium, not only in the Congo, but also in Zimbabwe and in Zambia, and I'm sure in Malawi, the whole belt. There's a particular belt where you find lithium. And that lithium, people are selling it at government level because they know it will bring more development, not only for the country itself with the remuneration that they're going to get from it, but also creating jobs. So collectively, there is a way of supporting each other. So coming back to the electronic vehicles, they will need that lithium. So they will definitely come together and support the production of something like that and look at collaboration. The instability that we've all heard about in Congo is because Congo has the largest number of minerals as well as gemstones in the world. And it's such a huge country. And we're not going to get into the politics of why they want to destabilize it and all that. It's great to acknowledge that it's got that type of wealth. Yeah. Regardless of that, Congolese business people are still business. Despite this argument, I'm calling it an argument, going on in Kinshasa, people are still doing business in other parts of Congo. Business is going on. We actually have just signed an agreement with a Congolese investor who wants us to assist him in building a hospital. And one of our consultants, who is a biomedical engineer, I asked him, I said, you know what's happening in Congo? Are you ready? He's like, of course I am. Without a blink of an eye, he just said yes. So we understand each other. We know what people go through. Who has not gone through a struggle and so on and so forth? But what's happening on the ground? Trading continues. It's like what I said earlier on. It's very easy to integrate yourself by being part of the growth, by forming linkages and partnerships through JVs and as a venture capitalist or even an angel investor, however you want to come on board. There's so many opportunities of people who are looking to grow their businesses. People are not shy anymore. They're not shy anymore to get into joint ventures. They're looking at growing their businesses to the next level because they know that there's so much competition now across the African continent. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with somebody from the northwestern province of Zambia. Their business had collapsed during COVID, but they've gotten back on their bandwagon and are looking for a joint venture from somebody who can pump in money and give them shares. They're not shy to do that. We have partners in Nigeria. They have projects which they have been running for quite some time, and they've been looking for partners of less than $2 million worth of projects, and they're open to it. Any investors. And we already do have partners in the different regions that can assist you to get your foot in the door of anything that you want to start off as small on a trial basis and see how it goes. And once you get your foot in the door on the African continent, it's easy to expand your horizons in other areas. So you first of all need to get your feet wet. Ask a lot of questions. Get to speak to the right people. Do not try to come out here on your own, blindly looking for the opportunities. The obvious thing is going to happen. Somebody's going to crook you. You know, it's like walking in New York City and they can spot you from a mile away that you're not from New York. Let alone you open your mouth and they hear that you have an accent. You're a target. They're going to rob you. They're going to mug you. It's the same thing. You cannot take that for granted. And also study the legal implications of migrating without the correct paperwork. You cannot take Africans for granted and just assume, oh, I'm going to Africa, even though I don't have all my paperwork correct, I'll be okay because they're Africans. No, we're very, very, very strict. We fought for our independence and we will hold our nationality to heart. And if you can come in, you gotta come in the right way. Don't take it for granted. People who overstay, we will deport you, but before deporting you, you'll be thrown in prison. Just do things the right way. If you do things the right way by the book, and you have a reliable consultant to assist you and walk you through it, and follow their advice on cultural dynamics of doing business, you'll be fine. As Hit Galut, we've dropped clients who refused to take our advice because we didn't want to be implicated for anything that they were planning to do. We didn't want to be a part of somebody who didn't want to take advice on the legal aspect of how to do business. You drop them. And there's some people who refuse to take cultural advice in how you approach chiefs in rural areas. When you're entering there to do a project, we will not touch you with a bean pole. Africans respect their chiefs, just like the way other countries respect their kings and queens, as well as their presidents. These are the cultural dynamics that people need to understand.
I've heard a lot.
So,
I've heard a lot of talk
yes.
about that, Elizabeth. Can you go through the steps of what you have to do about the chiefs and the community and the government? And, there's a whole protocol to lead up to
Yes, there is a
getting something done.
there is a protocol.
Now, would
Government,
that would
like
that be that's different with different countries,
let's
right?
start with the urban area. Let's start with the urban area protocol. Like any other government, please. It's very disrespectful to approach a president of an African country in a pair of boxer shorts or torn jeans and a leather jacket. You can't do that. Would you do that if you approach the U.S. president? No. Or the king or queen of a European country? No, that's disrespectful. So you got to dress appropriately. And when you're looking in the rural areas, if you're approaching a chief or a king or a queen, you have to listen to their I guess you can call them the right hand people. In different parts of Africa, and different tribes, they're called differently. They're elders. Yeah, the general word is elders. You got to take the advice of the elders because they're cultural ways of approaching a chief or a king or a queen, depending on the tribe, and your dress code as well. They will advise you on the dress code, and you have to bring a gift, a token of appreciation. The elders will guide you on what type of token of appreciation you need to bring. Usually, it's something from your country to say that this is from my people, to say thank you for welcoming me into your kingdom. So if you want to own a mine in that area and you just go in there guns blazing just because you've got $1 million in your pocket, forget it. That chief will not even bat an eye if you disrespect the chief.
And I think
If
that's
you
one of the
disrespect,
things that
yes,
most of us we probably take for granted because we feel emboldened if we have money and we
right.
go in. Now, what about? I mean, is that true for every um, group of people that's coming in, like the Chinese or the Europeans, or is there a difference between the groups of people?
I'll tell you one thing, the Chinese understand the cultural dynamics of Africa. That's why they have been very, very successful in penetrating the continent. They take advice. That's the difference.
They've
They
done a good
understand
job.
that there's a culture that needs to be respected. And in order for me to get what I want, let me just do what I need to do.
Well, that's how the Europeans came in before. They would bring gifts and they would woo the kings
Queen
and or the
Elizabeth,
villages.
Queen Elizabeth did that as well. Queen Elizabeth did that as well. She actually paid homage. She would also curtsy. Queen Elizabeth, she would curtsy before a king or a chief. Why is it now that they don't want to do that? What's the problem? And
Now
then they
explain
wonder why
curtsy.
we,
Explain curtsy in case if some people don't understand what that is.
um, I did not have to curtsy. Okay, to bow your head down to show respect like that. And you kneel as well. You bow and you kneel to show respect.
Now I got that a
Yes.
lot when I was in Africa. Women would come up and shake my hand, and then they would put their hand on across the other one, and then they would bow, but then they would squat
Yes.
when they would meet me.
Guess you can call it squatting. Yes, it wasn't really squatting, but it's like kneeling. It depends. Depends on your level, and it also depends on the situation, the event, and it also depends on who you are as well.
Now, one of the things that I noticed, I was with the pastor of a church, and when we got out of the car, several guys came around. They grabbed my bag, and I was going, "No, no, 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 no! I'll take it." He said, "No, no, let him carry it."
It's a former
And
spirit.
they took
Yeah,
his
they're welcoming you. They're welcoming you.
they
They're,
took
yeah,
his bags, they took my bags, and it was
yeah. And
yeah,
we
it was
shake
my
hands a lot.
computer.
Americans don't shake hands a lot, and they will call it invading your space. But with us, it's a form of embrace, like we're accepting you. There's no such thing as invading your space. It's a form of showing you that I accept you as part of me, and you're welcome.
Yes.
If an
Well, I mean,
African shows their this, then yeah, the deal is not on.
I'm constantly thinking myself at, ways and methods of going into the continent and what can be done, what can I do, what can other people do, and so I think that's on the hearts of many
Right.
people, in the diaspora that's wondering,
Yes.
how to go about plugging in. And like you said, if they don't go through the right channels,
Yes.
and I think one of the things that a lot of people have a reservation over is they've heard so many stories that they don't want to get involved because they are afraid. And so, how do you satisfy that?
Well, there are two reasons why people are afraid. Number one, the propaganda against Africa. Yeah, that's number one. And number two, not enough information of not enough information of legitimate institutions that you can actually go through and assist you appropriately. We always tell people to go through the trade attaches of embassies, and the trade attaches of embassies, they will guide you on information, the basic information. And through that, then you can start exploring and just, try to do whatever you want to do on your own. You end up losing a lot of money, and we take our time as well. We don't want to be crooked as well by people taking advantage of us as
Elizabeth, what countries would you say are
you were
the
saying. What
most,
countries?
would you say that would be the
Yes.
most appropriate to do investments in at this point?
The ones with good investment climates right now is Zambia. Zambia has always been a safe haven. We've always been very, very quiet. We've got partners in Egypt. It's also a good environment as well. Nigeria in Abuja, very, very good climate as well. Tanzania, Botswana, the quiet countries. Kenya is still good. Kenya is still good. Ghana is very good. Ghana is leading up there.
Hmm.
Um,
What would you say the
I'll have to map it out for you. I'll have to make a list.
okay, and what would you say
Yeah,
some of
I'll
the,
have to make a list for you. But
and just
off
off
the
of the,
top of my head, those countries definitely.
Elizabeth, what would you say some of the things right off of the top of your head, really quick, that you can think of that would be investments in real
Yes,
estate or mining or manufacturing or what's the hot thing?
all those that you just mentioned, they're the hot ones. Real estate, mining, agriculture, those three.
Okay.
And yeah, real estate, manufacturing, mining, and agriculture. Actually, four. Yes, across the board, no matter what country, no matter what country.
So if
Even if there's an instability in certain areas, you can still achieve.
Don't forget about green energy as well.
yes, can you talk a little bit about that, Rodney, before
Yes.
we kick off green energy?
Yes. Just talk about a little bit. Yeah, that's another big industry that's taking place in Africa. Like we said last week.
Energy, yes, definitely.
Yes. We talked about last week, we had a group, a solar company here in the U.S., down south in South Carolina, that whole process that Elizabeth was talking about, we're able to go over to Abuja, and they were able to meet with the Amir with the gift, like say, we're talking about cultural dynamics, protocol. And just based on that meeting, if everything would have went right, those guys would have came back extra clean. We had access to a whole state in Nigeria on a solar project, building solar farms. So the opportunity is there, big opportunities, but we have to, on our side here in the United States, we have to be prepared to take on such massive projects like that. So that's just one of my experiences. And another experience, we were bringing some green energy. We're going to bring green energy into not Zambia, but Botswana, with a major grocery store there in Botswana. I think they're in Zambia. They're in Elizabeth, correct me if I'm wrong. They're in South Africa, Botswana, and we had that opportunity as well. So people that I was dealing with wasn't ready to go over and understand the cultural dynamics. They just wanted to sell their product. But like Elizabeth said, there's a process that you have to go through to get the approval to do certain things like that. But the opportunity is there, and for us here in the U.S., we just got to be ready to go through their protocols and the way they do things, and understand that and respect their culture. So yeah, that's just a brief description of a couple of projects that we're still working on, and hopefully we can get the right partners to partner up with us, and we can take on those massive projects over there.
That's great. That's great. I think solar is a popular element, and I think Africa can take advantage of as many of the new technologies as possible, whereas in the States, we can't take advantage of those new ideas and new industries because we have the old infrastructure there, and the old infrastructure is going to lobby to make sure you don't do away with, they don't want to incur that extra expense. So they're going to say, hey, no, we don't want this. So Africa is a perfect place to just like proliferate all of this new technology. And that's why I think we're going to look at Africa in the future, and we're going to see an unbelievable amount of development that is cutting edge, unlike anywhere in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree.
Yes,
I totally
definitely, definitely.
So being able to get the workshops or small gatherings to be able to inform people, that is a potential and an ambition that I know that you guys have, and my same with me. And so why don't you let people know how they can get in touch with you guys in being able to learn more and get your consulting. Elizabeth or Rodney, you can put your information.
Well, we do have a website. We do have a website. Yes. Rodney, maybe you can put the information in the chat.
Okay.
And then I'll also do that as well.
Can you?
So we do have a website that you can reach us on, and we've got yeah, we're also on social media sites, depending
Why
on
don't you
exactly what
why
you're
don't you
looking
state?
for.
Actually, Rodney, can you say the website, because nobody's there, nobody's in the chat to see it. What we want to
Okay.
do is we're
I'll
gonna
let
put it on the.
I'll let Elizabeth. Elizabeth, can you say the website, please?
Okay. www.hitgalutconsultants.com. Hitgalut is a Hebrew word that means God's revelation. Just so you're, in case you forget the name, just remember God's revelation translation in Hebrew, that's Hitgalut. Consultants Limited. But the website is www.hitgalutconsultants.com. You can
Great.
Google us. Yes, you can Google us. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn. Is it still called Twitter, or is it just X?
X.
It's X. We're on X. And we're all, and on Facebook. Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and on the web. The website's there.
And Elizabeth, why don't you go ahead and
And
put
Facebook,
it in?
yes.
Go ahead and put it in. Go ahead and put it in the chat, and Anyenye can take that out
Yes.
and add that to the tagline.
Sure. I'm typing it as we speak. Yes.
When she's doing the editing. I really appreciate you guys being here again on another show of the African Trade Network, and we will look forward to coming up with some new topics on how we can do trade with Africa next week. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Rodney. And we look forward to getting people involved on the continent of Africa to do trade. Thank you.
Thank
Blessings.
you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Thank you.